The capital city of Kentucky, Frankfort. You may know it as where the governor lives, but our guest here today was able to bring a state championship back home to Frankfort in 1989. Sir, if you would, tell us who you are.
Yes, I'm Jon Wiard.
And you are the 1989 160-pound state champion. Now, before we go any farther, we want to say thank you to Corey Cardwell. He got us connected. Kind of put out the state championship graphics of region by region, state champions, year, name, weight, how many each have, leaderboard. And when the Frankfort one, when I made it, I put Frankfort as an inactive team because I went to look in the KHSAA record books, and the only person, the latest year I could find anybody making it into the regional or state tournament was 2004. So I consider 20 plus years of inactivity an inactive team. Now, Frankfort has two state champions, of course, you in 1989 and Tim Harrod in 1972 at 132 pounds. Now, for those that were of a certain generation, we know Frankfort as the host of the state wrestling tournament from 1996, 2011. They're the Farnham Dungeon Center, the best atmosphere ever for a state wrestling tournament. So I have to ask, man, how did you get started in wrestling?
Well, like I said, I was the youngest of five brothers. I get asked that a lot, being 6'3". I'm not your typical wrestler. So, but my brother, Coach Raymond Webb, started the wrestling team at Frankfort High in 1968. In 69, my oldest brother joined the team, and there was at least one Wired on the team from 69 to 89 when I graduated.
Wow. That's incredible, man, for real.
Yeah. So kind of a family affair thing, and we did it, and it was kind of expected, and we all enjoyed it.
Now, for those people that don't know, because I don't know the answer to this, does Frankfort High School that you went to, does it still exist? Because I don't remember seeing it. Or
absolutely, and doing really, really well for a small school. And as a matter of fact, they are bringing the wrestling team back next year.
Okay.
So they are in the process of doing what they need to do to bring a program back. It's a small school, about 340 kids, I think, 350, something like that, which they've got more in it now than when I graduated. But absolutely.
No, that's good to know. We Franklin County, though they've had a program for a pretty long time. I think we're going to be getting with Chad Hayden, be doing his review video. We've talked to him. I think Corey got us hooked up with Chad as well.
Yes.
And we're going to be getting with him. I think the tournament there outside the state tournament is called the Capital City Classic, I believe. That's the big tournament. Was that around when you were in school?
Yeah, actually, and I'm not sure if you're familiar. Are you familiar with Coach Raymond Webb?
I don't think I am. I may have met him in passing, but with the series and stuff, I've met so many people.
Right, he's in the Hall of Fame. I think he was put in. I was in Florida at the time, so I wasn't there 4 or 5 years ago. But he was the regional director. So my whole career, from when I started wrestling in 4th grade up through senior year, we hosted district every year, and then we were responsible for region every other year, and we were next in line to take over the state tournament.
Wow.
Which it was at Atherton when I was wrestling there, which didn't have a program, which was so funny. But I never got to do the Civic Center, but it was an absolute awesome venue to do it at.
Oh my gosh, yeah. That's whenever we do any videos from 96 to 2011, I always build up and just say how awesome it was when, the lights would start and the beach balls and the glow sticks and all that. It was just such an amazing atmosphere, and it was just such a unique where the seats come right down to the mat. And
kind of like circle seating coming down to really nice. Louisville Atherton was a big gym, and I think that's why it stayed there for so long, where they were able to pull their bleachers back. You could put the 6 mats in there pretty easy, which that was just a problem back then, was finding a venue to put the mats you needed to have a state tournament.
Yeah, and I think the state tournament was at Atherton from 1974 to 1995, man. So you just missed, just a few years, man. You missed out on getting to do it. That would have been something to have won a state championship in your home city. You know what I mean?
Yeah, it would have been a really, really neat experience to do it there, especially at a time where wrestling was kind of, maybe an afterthought to football, basketball. It just wasn't as even as popular as it is now. So, yeah, it would have been nice. But, yeah, Coach Webb was the driving force behind bringing it to Frankfort.
I got you. And talking about winning in your home city, it was Lexington Catholic or Dunbar or Henry Clay, one of the Lexington schools. They won the Sweet 16, and they marched from Rupp Arena, or had a police escort from Rupp Arena down to their school, fans and cars and all that kind of stuff. So, I mean, that's when man, high school sports is the biggest game in town, no matter what it is, wrestling, soccer, volleyball. When your community gets behind you, knowing you're going to the state tournament to win a state championship, man, that's just something that is so high school sports unique. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Absolutely, and you never forget those memories. I don't think the fans do. I know I don't. Some of my greatest memories are from wrestling. Some of my worst memories are from wrestling sometimes, but they're memories that stick with you for a lifetime.
I got you. And let's talk about that state tournament run. 1987, 138 pounds. You make it to the state tournament, but as we say in wrestling, you either win or you learn. 1987 was a learning year. No big deal. You had a pretty good learning curve, because 1988, 152 pounds. As a junior, you run into Darren Parker from Christian County. You come in state runner-up, and that review video is on the channel, fans, if you want to go back and watch it after you finish this one. The score is tied 6-6 at the end of regulation, but Darren is just able to find another gear. He pulls ahead 7-0 in overtime. Darren was a pretty good wrestler.
Absolutely.
I think, being a senior may have had a lot to do with it. But he that day, man, he in the overtime, I guess he just kind of knew what to do, or just, I don't want to say had your number, because I don't know what you were thinking and all that, but he just able to pull it out.
Yeah, it's I think it was a lot. I think the pressure had gotten to me. That was our third match that year. First match was in the WCI in December, and I think I beat him 13-4.
Wow.
We wrestled again 2 weeks before districts, and I think it was a Danville Invitational tournament, and I beat him 6-4. Noticed a huge improvement with him there. That pressure of that third time, I think it started weighing on me a little bit. I probably mentally got beat a little bit, losing it, because I think I lost the takedown late in regulation for him to tie it up on a stalemate call. And but he was a really, really good wrestler. And I don't think he'd been wrestling that long. I think he was able to do that in relatively short amount of years.
I didn't get a chance to review Darren's video. I'm sure I asked him about that. But today is March the 18th, 2025. I've been, since the state tournament ended this past year, I have been just absolutely just trying to get people filmed, get videos out, people we've been trying to get. So I just didn't get a chance to review. But it should be said that in the late 80s, like 85, 86, Hopkinsville, that's the seat, county seat of Christian County, had 2 team state championships back to back. Then in 1988, Hopkinsville was the team runner-up. Christian County was the team champion. So just a phenomenal 87. Christian County, I believe, again, was the runner-up. So that Hopkinsville, Christian County area, man, the mid to late 80s, early 90s, they were an absolute hotbed. I mean, they were on fire.
And we never saw them. What was funny, and I always said, I wish I hadn't, because the usual thing was you didn't see Christian County and Hopkinsville until state tournament. They wrestled in Kentucky. They did tournament. I think they were in Tennessee. They just wrestled different spaces, and we usually the first time you saw those guys was state tournament. For some reason that year they came up to the Whitford County Invitational, and then again I saw them at a small tournament, I think in Danville. So it was a surprise to me. You were talking about the 138 year in '87. That '87, that was just an absolutely loaded weight class that year. There were so many good wrestlers. I actually finished fifth in the state, or tied for fifth, as an eighth grader at 105.
Okay.
That was my eighth grade year. Then my freshman year, I qualified, but I don't think I did much at 119, then 138, 152, and then 160 were my weight classes.
And kind of circle back real quick to the Christian County. I've been to Christian County, I believe, 4 times. They have, as of this filming, 25 state champions. 22 of the 25 are on the channel. We've been able to meet with, whether in person or on the Zoom here. And the Christian County guys and the Hopkinsville guys, they all have taken great pride in saying they kind of stayed hid out of the state until it come time for postseason, because they're so close. They can be in Tennessee, Missouri, Indiana, Illinois, all these places, just, drop of a hat. So they were really, really, and, kids, we always used to have one of these in our pocket where you could, pull up and watch and do whatever. So like John said, you didn't see some people until the state tournament. I mean, you didn't know schools existed until the state. You're like, well, I'm wrestling who from where? Never even. Is that, is that a foreign country?
Yeah, I mean, at that time, you're not going to drive 4 hours to wrestle, and the way the tournaments went, in an 18 bracket, you might have about 3 minutes of total wrestling time in a day. So it's just not. It wasn't logistically possible for them, and I think it gave them an advantage to coming in, and most of the rest of the state, I'd seen. But I had a lot of good matches with Christian County and Hopkinsville guys through the years. Antonio Earthman, I think, when I was an eighth grader or freshman, wrestled him. Really good wrestler for them. Some really good.
I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you there, but I don't know if you knew, but Antonio passed away on us a few years ago.
No, I didn't. Hate to hear.
We'll talk a bit more off camera, but he passed away, 1985 state champion. Earlier you talked about Coach Webb being a regional president, hosting regions. All back in the late 80s, you don't have to remember every single team, but we know the alignment has changed over years. Do you remember what teams, like some of the bigger name teams, were in your region back then?
Oh yeah, Whitford County was head and shoulders above everybody. They were the team that fought it out. In the early '80s, Bull County, which has surprised me through the years, just hasn't recreated it. Bull County had a really, really good wrestling program. They had one coach that came in for about 5 or 6 years that did well for him, and he kind of fell off. But so I can remember a lot of tournaments between Whitford County and Bull County. But throughout my high school career, Whitford County, Western Hills, Franklin County, and then we had Wayne County, which poor guys make that drive all the way up to the Frankfort district every year. I'm trying to think. That was usually that little group. I think there were 8 teams in our district at that time.
Okay.
And then of course you had the Lexington was the regional, so you pick up the Henry Clay. All the Lexington schools. Harrison County was always a big one.
I'll insert here where, like, when we're talking, we'll have the graphic on the screen. But on the bracket, and doing the research and talking, been able to figure it out. But just looking at it in the abstract, it's only showing 4 different regions back then: Western Kentucky, Northern Kentucky, Lexington, and Jefferson County. So there was only 4 regions.
Right.
And I would have to imagine you guys were the Lexington region, correct?
Yes, we were the Lexington region, and I think I have a. Yeah, this would have been it would have been from the '52 year. So, yeah, there's 4 number ones.
Okay.
And that was the luck you kind of took going into it because I know my senior year, my toughest match was my semifinal match with Troy Bailey from Hopkinsville. But sometimes you got lucky, sometimes you didn't. Sometimes the finals weren't always the real finals, and that happens in a lot of things. But it was still, the best system had available at that time.
And 152 in the 11th grade with a 34-4 record, Jon Wiard, Frankfort. The opponent in the 12th grade with a 30-10 record, Darren Parker.
Now, before we talk about your bracket and go over who you beat and all that, again, we always didn't used to have such ease of access of information like we do now when we can look at who weighed in where, like you're refereeing, say, Region 8 in Eastern Kentucky at Johnson Central, Boyd County, Sheldon Clark, Martin County, wherever. You can instantaneously look and see on Track Wrestling who weighed in at what weight on the Union County, the western side of the Paducah Tillman, whoever, trying to stay away from somebody or whatever. And believe me, coaches do that. They'll be like, I want to bump this kid, or, my so-and-so didn't show up, quote unquote. We're going to bump this kid. We're going to try to keep them away from people. Back in the 80s, how did you guys see the brackets? How did you know who was going to be? Were they were they mailed to the schools? Did your coaches go have to pick them up? How did it go?
It was just a different world back then. It was a lot of word of mouth. There was a lot of Coach Webb. We had the same tournaments usually. I don't remember, and we wrestled them some, but we didn't wrestle a lot of dual matches back then. You'd have them, but those would be like a weeknight thing. Mm-hmm. And a lot of the teams at the time just couldn't. We fought it too, field the full team. So that made it hard. So tournaments were always kind of the go-to. And but no, you're exactly right. You didn't know it was a paper bracket, and I was at the state tournament a couple weekends ago, and with the guys, and we were watching, and we were kind of laughing about how organized things are. Whereas back then, you had somebody over an intercom mispronouncing people's names, and people hoarding around a paper bracket stuck to the wall, and that was how we did things.
Did you happen to see my officiating prowess out there?
I did. We checked it out and enjoyed the day. Probably up there about 3 or 4 hours. I found some newfound respect for my parents and all the years of time they put on those bleachers, because that gets a little tiresome after a while.
We the referee squad, the table workers, KHSAA, I think that we do an excellent job of running the state tournament as smoothly as we can. Track wrestling, the kids can pull up. Okay, I'm 4 matches out on my looking at their phone. I'm going to be on mat number 7. I'm 4 out as soon as this one ends. And I don't think there was a time at the state tournament in 2025. I kind of want to date ourselves that we had to make an announcement. Maybe. Somebody was injured, we didn't know it, or was going to forfeit, we didn't know it hadn't been put in the system yet. Mm-hmm. But kids are just right. Kids and coaches are just right there, boom, 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 and it makes the day go by so much faster.
And it does, and the timing. I can remember, you'd have a tournament on a weekend, and it was very normal to get home at 2 o'clock in the morning. I mean, it was just the way it went.
Yes.
That was when they started. It used to be the medals were given out after all the weights had wrestled.
Mm-hmm.
So if you won at 98, you stayed at the tournament until the heavyweights finished, and they changed that about, I think, around my 8th grade freshman year, and started giving them one round after through tournaments. So, but yeah, it's so much.
It's a great the efficiency. We always are looking for ideas on the efficiency, but I think we've got a great system. Maybe we could tweak something here and there, but I don't think we could really gain too much time. We run especially with 8 mats on Friday with the boys, and then cut it down to 6 for the semifinals, wrestlebacks, all that. I think we do an excellent job with that. But let's talk about your 1989 bracket, man. You start off with a 17-1. I believe it was a tech fall, correct?
Yes. Yeah.
A 17-1 tech fall over Eric Walker of Louisville Moore. You get to the quarters. You win by a fall over Chuck Baker from Dixie Heights. Now, this is a match I want to kind of talk about because you are meeting up with a state champion. Now, before we say Troy Bailey, his memorial video is on the channel from Hopkinsville. We got to do the memorial video with his mom, his dad, his brother, some of his sisters, nephews, nieces. They had never got to watch Troy's state finals match, and I can tell you, that was a very powerful memorial video for them to never get to see Troy's video. Sadly, Troy is no longer with us. He passed away in high school, and getting to sit with a family that never got to watch their son state finals match for the first time, there they are seeing it in color. You can just see the joy on their face and the sadness at the same time that he's no longer with them. But you meet up with Troy Bailey in the semis.
Mm-hmm.
Had you wrestled Troy before?
No, I hadn't. My best friend at the time, who graduated the year before, which is Coach Webb's son, Ray J, had wrestled him the year before, the year he won state. Mm-hmm. We knew what Hopkinsville was, Troy, Jared Trice. They're absolutely Willie Ennels. Yeah. It's so long, all the names don't come to me, but I knew what I was up against. Matter of fact, I can remember after regionals and I saw the draw and saw that I had to face him in the semis, and being in the finals the year before, that was that extra little piece of pressure to get to that match.
Now, Troy, great wrestler, so athletic. Him and Jared Trice and Willie, just absolute, just anomaly type of athletes, right? That were taught how to wrestle. Hopkinsville's longtime assistant coach, very good friend of the channel, Tony Harris. He said that they being the coaching staff, they would go to football practice. Hey, guess what? You're wrestling now. Who's my wide receivers? You're wrestling. Who's my linebackers? You're wrestling. I need some defensive linemen. All right, you're heavyweight. You're 189. Let's go. And they would just teach them how to wrestle. They didn't really, do a lot of off season. They would just go start picking dudes out. You're the fastest. Guess what? You're wrestling now. And that was their team. Just a bunch of incredible athletes that learned how to wrestle.
Yep.
Now, I believe the bracket is kind of hard to read. This is the original 1989 hand wrote off the website, off the KHSAA website. I believe it's a 9-5 decision, correct?
Yes. Yeah. I think it was 9-5.
And, you said, talk to me in text and going back and forth, that was a crazy match. Do you remember how the scoring played out? Was it as close as the scoring seemed? Was it closer?
It was probably closer. He got the first takedown. I think I got an escape towards the end of the first period. 2-1. Second period, we kind of went back and forth. And then in the third period, I was able to put him on his back twice. The same cradle I put Darren Parker on my junior year. Kind of my go-to thing was crossface cradle, and
I got you.
was able to get him in the cradle once for 2 points, and then break it, and then re-engage and get another 3 points. So I think at the time it was maybe he might even have been up 5-4, and I was able to score those last 5 points.
Oh, man, it paid off for you because you're back in the finals. This time you're wrestling Kurt Zinga from Campbell County. Now you're coming into the state finals with a record of 41-3. Kurt is coming into the finals with a record of 34-1. But before we talk about that, on the bracket, it's got a -1 team point from Hopkinsville. Do you remember anything about that?
There was a little bit of, not towards me at all, more so I think Troy losing. It seems like the coaches had said something, but I think Jared might have run out on the mat or something. More of I think just really surprised he lost, and something happened there. But nothing from a physical standpoint like that. I mean, the guys are the defending state champ. I don't think he expected to lose. So
No, I get it. I just, without context, you know what I mean? I love being able to add the context of stuff that we've seen.
Yeah. And, that's in the middle of a team try. That really hurt them from a team because Trinity beat them that year without a state champion.
That's crazy, isn't it?
Yeah, and that was a big lick to them.
Yeah. Now, had you wrestled Kurt Zinga before?
I wrestled him the year before at 152 in the quarterfinals, I think.
Okay.
And so I had wrestled him before, and I beat him then.
And before we put the match video on, one thing I love about having the brackets and being able to share them on the videos with everybody is in this bracket, the 16-man bracket, there was 4 state champions. So that's insane. Of course, Troy Bailey, 1988. Of course, you this year. Chris Goss from Sheldon Clark in 1991. We'll talk about Chris just in a minute. And Kurt Zinga from 1990. So you had 88, 89, 90, and 91 state champions all in this bracket, man. I don't know if that's a first or the only, but it's got to be, up there in the tops of probably one of the harder brackets that's ever, had in the 16-man era, because you rarely saw that many state champions in the same bracket.
Yeah, and at those times, the 152, 160, I think it's the difference in build of kids. Kids are bigger now. They're just bigger.
They are.
Earlier, but those, I would call them more of the man weights at the time, and the fact that you saw your best wrestling from anywhere from the 145 to 160 range, I thought at that time. Those were the guys that had been in it, and people weren't quite as big. Heavyweights just weren't that big. Matter of fact, my 3 losses that year were I lost twice to Berkeley Riley for Henry Clay, and I beat him twice. So who was the 171 state champion that year. So I was a 175-pound football player, and after as close as we were, I made this decision to drop to 160. So to get away from there, knowing that Troy Bailey was sitting there also.
And I've heard before I got the video, I'd heard the stories about Berkeley Riley and Chris Birch about how just intimidating they look whenever they come to a duel. They, kind of put them out leading the warm-up lines or whatever, out there just all jacked up. Like when I saw the video, I was like, I can understand why. You know what I mean? They were
he was really, really built. The two of us wrestling was a funny thing because here I am, this 6'3", skinny 170-pounder, and he was probably 5'9", 5'10", maybe a little taller, but just really, really built. So it was kind of a conflict in terms of that, of how we were wrestled. But I had some great matches with him. We really had some good times.
And 1989, I love being able to do this too, is reading off the state champions, kind of refreshing the memory, maybe some of these guys that you haven't heard in a while. 103 pounds, Chris Zinner from St. Xavier. That video is on the channel. We actually filmed Chris Zinner's review video on my back porch here, about 20 feet behind where we're at. You guys are looking at the wall here, but directly behind this wall is where we filmed Chris's video. 112 pounds, Sean Atcher from North Hardin. 119 pounds, Jon Wiard from Connor. 125 pounds, Joel Carruthers of Wagner. 130 pounds, Chris Goodman from North Hardin. Of course, three-timer Willie Ennels from Hopkinsville. Arvell Banks from Christian County, 140 pounds. That video's on the channel. Earl Smith from Western at 145. Jared Trice, Hopkinsville. Jared was the most outstanding wrestler that year, and he put on a show, let me tell you.
Yeah.
Jared put on a show. Of course, you at 160, Berkeley Riley at 171. Rest in peace to Chris Birch at 189. And then James Simpson from PRP out of Louisville. So back in the day, man, there was some schools on there that really had their programs, kind of kicking. Wagner, Western, PRP. I mean, some of the names you just don't hear anymore.
Right.
Back in your all's era.
Never really had much. Matter of fact, I'd forgotten that they had a state champion that year. They were never known to be that strong. Wagner we'd see Wagner usually at Woodford County. Woodford County Invitational was a tournament where you saw teams that you didn't wrestle a lot because they had that tournament was hard to win. The state tournament was. It really was.
It was a
tournament.
I was going to say, speaking of which, we're going to pull up your state finals match video, and we are at Atherton's gym there in Louisville. You're looking at the two gentlemen there. In the orange is Jared Trice. I cannot think of the guy's name from Trinity. It escapes me that he wrestled, but the referee there is a friend of the channel, Gene Washington. You probably had Gene referee a bunch.
Mean Gene Washington, one of our favorites.
Yeah, absolutely, man. Absolutely. So we are going to go back to 1989, man. Let's go.
All right.
34 and 1 record in the 11th grade from Campbell County, Kurt Spartan 1 and 3 record in the 12th grade from Frankfort, Jon Wiard.
Look at that stud.
Yeah.
At 171.
That's going to pick up right out of the gate. You're in the orange singlet there. Turn down the volume just a smidge. So, what was your go-to takedown, man? What were you like? You're comfortable doing, or what was your bread and butter here from the feet, or?
It was a single leg, and I like to shoot fast. I like to get my length would help me. Hurt her leg. Senior year, it probably that knee gave him a lot of problems.
Yeah. Of course, we're out of bounds. Back to the center. Nothing yet. Nothing yet. You can tell you're considerably taller than Kurt.
Oh, absolutely. He's probably 5.
Yeah. You shoot in, man. Kurt's able to stuff it, but your wrestlers, let that be a lesson. Just because you may not get it right out of the gate, don't give up on it. Try to finish that single leg.
And that's where my length helped me so much.
Oh, yeah, you can tell.
With my arms, that takes.
And, the out-of-bounds rules were a whole lot different, guys, than what they are now in 2025. So if the match gets stopped, don't complain at the referee. It's just the way the rules were.
Right. I noticed that at the state tournament this year, how they were really letting us all over the.
Yep, as one point of contact. That's all we have to have now, 1 point. Right here, I was going to ask you, it looked like you were trying to get a leg in. Were you so tall? Were you a leg rider?
I was a rider. I like to go matches. I think tall and a little quick. that is what I was always looking for, that cross face cradle.
I got you. Trying there for a switch. Kurt's able to do a really good job with it and kind of do what he's supposed to and get his hips around.
This is a very controlled match. Bad.
Now, I was going to say, Kurt, don't get too far over. You'll get rolled right there.
Yeah.
Not a good spot to be in.
Yeah, I think it's 2-1 right now.
I believe so. I believe it's 2-1, yes.
And look at my point.
Nothing yet. Nothing yet. Now, he gets a little bit too high right here.
Yeah.
And I'm like, oh, Kurt.
Once I can get my shoulder through.
As long as your legs are, you're able to fight that leg defense pretty good. You get the reversal right there. And now I believe it's 4-1.
Yep, which is the end of the scoring. Something I remember, and it just stood out with he's the anybody I've ever wrestled. Putting on wrestling.
That's the end of the period. He's on the bottom. Did you, like, I don't want to say go into coast mode, but did you kind of, okay, I've been able to ride him, these first two periods, just kind of look busy?
Yeah. In practice, we could times where we try to ride 5 minutes. Sometimes probably more than anybody.
Mm-hmm.
Two right here that he could really. I wasn't concerned about anything except maybe having to get something.
Yeah. He tries to stand up there. You do a pretty good lift, return. As tall as you are, I'd say that was a pretty common move for you.
Yeah.
Got a
cradle, chicken wing.
Yep, they got the wing going on. Nothing, lift, back to the mat. There you go. I believe that's Coach Bandcamper right there, standing up. Out of bounds, back on top here. You can. The camera must be close to the Campbell County fan section.
Right. Yeah, I had a good cheering crowd that night. I think Trinity had kind of.
The crowd's counting down the time here. Or no, that must be your corner right there celebrating.
Yeah.
Okay, my bad. You win by a final score, 4-1.
4-1. Yeah. Right.
There you are, man. State champion, 19, and here's the medal ceremony.
Yeah, I've got a lot of men here, I think.
There's Troy Hopkinsville getting his medal. I believe that's Berkeley right there in our screen, correct?
Yeah.
That's what I thought. And I was going to ask you about this jacket. We'll talk about it here just in a minute.
Sure.
Kurt, very sportsmanlike, helped you up on the podium. that's where the match video ends. So it's been a while since you've seen it. Does it play out the way that you've remembered it all these years?
It does. It really does. It's not, you don't have regret when you lose. I think I wrestled a super, super conservative match. Again, the pressure from losing the year before and getting there, I felt it more than I think I've ever felt it before. I said I'm the youngest of five brothers. One brother finished third and lost to a number one seed in the semis, they were the two best wrestlers. I had another brother who finished second. So all of us came pretty close. And I was the last of the group. So yeah, I was really feeling the pressure that night, but
I got you. Was your family able to attend, all your brothers and everybody?
Yep, all four brothers were there, all three sisters, my mom and dad. We were actually having a flood in Frankfort at that time. I wasn't able to practice. I think the flood came in on Tuesday of that week. So I didn't practice Tuesday, Wednesday, went up to state tournament on Thursday. I can remember running at night, just trying to, I was having to keep my weight at that point. I had about 2 or 3 pounds I had to play with every weekend. Yeah. So didn't get a lot of mat time in. And, the big problem was once I dropped to 160 my senior year, I don't think from January until state tournament, I went out the first period with anybody. So I didn't have a lot of 6-minute matches. So it's hard when you get to state tournament and keeping your, you just can't replicate what it takes. You can do all the running in the world. It's different when you're wrestling somebody.
Absolutely. And as the sport's growing, as kids are getting into it, whether it's elementary, middle school, high school, youth, whatever, they're finding out just how long 6 minutes can be for high school, or the minute 30 periods for middle school, or minute periods for elementary school. And refereeing kids as much as I have, when I say kids, I'm talking the younger elementary, middle school, is you'll hear, mom and dad or grandparents or guardians, whoever, say, they let them go out and run around the neighborhood 4 or 5 times. And it's a totally different ball game. You can run till the end of the earth. You're not going to be in wrestling shape. That's just the way it is. You have to get out there and get physical with somebody else for that amount of time to really understand just how long a minute can be when you're a kid.
Absolutely. Those 6 minutes on the mat, there's nothing that replicates it. If you're with somebody as good as you are, I don't think I could ever be in a shape where I wasn't exhausted at the end of a match. Under circumstances. Now,
there at the medal ceremony, you got a jacket. And of course, we have the 1987 medal ceremony, 86, 85, 83, 1994, 95, 96, whatever. But there was only those 2 years where the state champions got jackets. Do you still have yours by chance?
I don't have mine. I don't know where it went, but I can tell you the story behind it was Chris Gorman it's a political, was in politics. I don't know if he was the commissioner of agriculture or something for the state of Kentucky. And he donated those jackets for those couple of years. They had his name on the back of them. And the reason I know that is because his family was from Frankfort.
Okay.
So we got a call from him afterwards. But that was Jack Klein. I don't know. Were you?
Oh yeah, I know Jack. Yep.
Yes. Great man.
Oh yeah.
In charge of referees at the time. So.
And well, the reason I bring that up is 1988 and 1989. There was only 13 weight classes each year. We didn't have the 215 until 1996. So conceivably, there were only 26 that had been issued. We know that Jared Trice's, we've talked to Jared, both of his were burnt in his, I think he said it was his mother or grandmother's house that caught on fire where they were, lost his jackets. Willie Ennels, his is no longer. Dave Barnes from 88, his, I guess, got molded, and his family tossed his, a few years ago. So we've only been able to really track down a couple. I believe Darren Parker was one that we were able to find.
Right.
Lawrence Woodford from Fern Creek, the heavyweight from 1988. There's been a couple that we've been able to find. I was going to see if you had yours because I'm going to say, man, if you have it, it's rare as hen's teeth. You know what I
I
mean?
know. Yep, and I don't. I wish I did. I don't know where that one. I remember wearing it a lot. I played football at Georgetown College the following year, and I can remember, that was kind of the bragging right jacket to wear around when you're meeting the new guys and stuff. So.
Oh yeah, and I'm sure everybody wanted to try you, right?
That's right. That's right. That was the test. Yep.
That's something about men. You see somebody with a tough man jacket on, tough man boxing champion or wrestling jacket. You got to take your, what you got, big boy.
That's right. Exactly.
You'll put that jacket up on the line. So, man, we've covered a lot of ground here, talked a lot of things. I think you've dug some stuff out. So, is there anything you'd like to, display and let us see?
I was looking through. It's funny when you mentioned that to me earlier on. I hadn't seen any of this stuff for years and years. And my mother passed away. My dad passed away in 2009, but my mom passed away a couple of years ago. And of course, at that time, all the brothers and sisters had to take all their stuff that had been stored for years and years. So there's a lot of stuff. I donated my most valuable wrestling from things and my gold medal from state tournament. Some other stuff to our high school. They have a huge trophy case and a house they put everything in. So, but some of the things I was able to gather.
I was going to say, show us that bracket from Chris.
I'll show. I guess one here's this would be a typical bracket at the time I was wrestling, and this is how everything was done. This tournament stands out to me in that I think in 4 matches I had a 23-second pin, a 13, a 14, and a 142.
Wow.
So, and that was my senior year. But yeah, this would have been my junior year, which they gave a copy of the bracket to, which was the year that Darren Parker won it.
Mm-hmm.
But so anytime you won a tournament, that was you got a medal and you got a bracket. Sometimes you got trophies, which I have a few of, and just
Oh my goodness! Look at those medals.
And these are medals from probably, I guess I got my first medal in 5th grade up through high school and letters. Funny, this was my singlet from my senior year. And I don't know what happened to it over time, but it's not blue anymore. So
yeah, I was going to say, I believe Father Time took care of that one.
Yeah, and I think this was a baseball shirt that I think my brother. This was 20 years dated me, and I think if you saw it in the finals that year, that's what I wore, and I think it was my brother's actual.
So that's the exact shirt that you had on.
Yep, that's the exact shirt I had on. So
the number 17, I guess, was that his baseball number?
Yeah, that was his baseball number, and I don't know why we started wearing them at that time. That was just something I started. I think I picked it up my senior year and did that. But yeah, I mean, just stuff like that. I think that was from when I won it my senior year. My mom had made a thing. And,
man, that is so cool that you still have all that stuff. That's amazing, man. What a great addition.
Yeah, it's a testament to my parents. That time we're not thinking about keeping that stuff. We're living life, moving on, but it's nice to have and see. One thing I was going to show you is it's really funny. This was the 1984 regional wrestling tournament.
Oh, no kidding.
Here, and I'll get you a copy of this, and there's a page on it, Why Wrestling, and it's a pretty much just explaining what wrestling is to people and why we do it, and so I mean, some really neat stuff in here.
Oh yeah, I'd love to have a copy of that. Yeah. Scan it to me or something.
I will. I'll get you a copy of it, and just shows and these little mini brackets that everybody would have at the time. Right. Which I think this was my 8th grade year when I was at 105. So yeah, just neat time and really good.
Having all that stuff on your table, I couldn't tell you the number of guys, whether they're older than you or just being graduated a few years where they won it in the 80s or early 80s, 70s, whatever. Number of guys I've met with, ask them to see their medals or their Letterman jacket or their ring, and they'll always kind of just be like, man, I was dating this girl and I gave her my state championship ring, and 2 months later, she moved to California. I ain't seen it since.
Yep. I think that's what happens. And like I said, it's a test of my mom and dad and what they did for us, because like I said, these were in boxes up in their attic for probably 30, 35 years.
My goodness.
Yeah. And, one more thing I was going to say was you were talking about Chris Goss earlier on. Really good wrestler. I got him younger. I was probably, I think, his first year wrestling when I met Coach Matney. Sheldon Clark was sent to our region. So we kind of developed a relationship with him. And so I got to see him kind of grow from being a freshman, sophomore up to his senior year when he became a really, really good wrestler.
Yeah, I was going to say the Kurt Zinga that you wrestled, he goes on 1990 state champion, 160 pounds. He actually beat Chris Goss in the state championship. And then 1991, Chris Goss wins it as well, 160. And then fast forward to 2022, Chris's son Reese wins it for Johnson Central at 144 pounds. So, man, we're connecting the dots. We're being able to put, all this information together. So it's cool how, Darren beat you, you beat Kurt beat Chris, Chris wins it, Chris's son wins it. Just 6 degrees of separation.
Exactly. And it's a testament. You got to wrestle those guys to get to the level to win the big matches.
Mm-hmm.
You got to take some losses, along the way to figure some stuff out.
But before we kind of wrap this one up, I want to say to the young men, young women that are in high school or just graduated, and you still have your rings, you still have your medals, your Letterman jackets. I don't care how beautiful that girl is. I don't care what that guy does, young ladies. Do not give them your rings. Do not give them your medals. Do not give them anything from your high school accomplishments because they're going to move. They're going to get mad and throw it away or something. Hold on to it. Put it up. Go rent a $19.95 a month storage unit or get something. But don't let somebody you're dating just up and take it.
That's right. Absolutely.
It means so much to you when you get older. You have your own family, your own business, your own whatever that you can put up on your wall or have for something like this. Just don't do it. Just take my advice, take John's advice. Don't do it. It's not worth it.
Absolutely. I would say that 100 times over. And later on in life, what's when it means something to you. Life moves fast in your 20s and 30s. These are some of the best moments of your life, and it's good to be able to look back sometimes and relive them.
Absolutely. And with that said, I believe we've covered a lot of ground here. We've talked a lot and brought up a lot of good memories. But before we end it here, is there anything else you'd like to say, add, take away, anything of that nature?
Oh, just thanks to you for doing this. It's really, really nice to do it. And like I said, I got to give a lot of thanks to my brothers, Coach Webb, who's a big inspiration in my life and helped us along the way. It's the coaches that do it. It's the time they put in, practices, getting up at 6 a.m, the helping you cut weight, driving you to school bus if you have to. They sacrifice a lot. And
to that, being a seasoned veteran official in wrestling, until you've seen coaches, like you said, have to get up and help kids cut weight. Nowadays, weight management is so strenuous. It's so monitored, as it should be. There's no reason for kids to cut 15, 20 pounds a week, like back in, your all's era, or whatever. But people don't really see the emotional investment, the time investment, sometimes even the money investment, depends on the kid's situation of how much goes in that a coach that cares about their kids that puts in. To build a program, you've got to have a great coaching staff. You've got to have booster clubs. You've got to have the support of your school system, your AD, your principal, everybody on down. But the coaches, they're the ones out there, man, that are pushing young men, young women to be better than they ever imagined they could be. And I know, there's the old joke about, coaches going crazy or sometimes whatever. As long as a coach isn't being just overtly profane or threatening to, fight the gym or some type of violence, if they're within somewhat of a reasonability coaching their kid or maybe even arguing for a call, I may, kind of let it go. I understand they have a lot invested in their kids. You know what I mean? And
Yeah.
like I said, if they're throwing out words they shouldn't or saying things they shouldn't, that's where we're going to draw the line. But it's to see the people starting programs from scratch. I'm talking no mats, no singlets, no headgear, no nothing. Just I got kids wanting to wrestle. I know a little bit about it. Let's get out there and do it. My hat's off to them. You know what I mean?
And then, spend your weekends. I mean, because from November to through February, you're not going anywhere on a weekend.
Yeah.
And you can't run away from wrestling. There's a lot of sports where you can mess around a little bit. You might not have to practice hard, but you will be exposed in wrestling if you don't put 100% into it all the time.
Absolutely. And, man, I think that's a great way to end this. Again, thank you for doing this. Really appreciate it. I'm glad we were able to get together, trying to get as many schools represented, as many years, as many people. I think we're closing in on the 400 video mark. As of this filming, there's only 837 state champions, and we've got close to 400 on the channel so far, and we're not slowing down. We're not stopping. We're going to get as many as we can get, and I want the world to know Kentucky wrestling's here. We've had some great wrestling. It's just been hid for far too long, and it's become my life's work to let the world know just what we have to offer here in our state.
Well, and I thank you and appreciate what you're doing to kind of get that out there and get the word out and let people know. I think from all of us, we appreciate you.
Well, man, if we didn't have guys like you and your stories to tell, I would just be a guy, talking into a camera. You know what I mean? I gotta be able to have something to share. People got to have something to be invested in, and it's people that maybe wrestled against you, heard the stories, the Paul Bunyan-esque stories or whatever it may be. So I'm glad we were able to get it lined up. But I think we can end this one here on a very positive note. Thank you all for watching. We will see you guys and girls on the mats.